TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about Wagerwire. Wagerwire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at Wagerwire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search Wagerwire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, take me higher.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is a special edition of the Midday Market Report with good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Tinker. Excuse me, October 9th, 2024. Thoughts and prayers go out to Florida as Hurricane Milton heads there. Shout out to Scotty Webb, his family, everyone in the Bradenton, Tampa, everyone in Florida, my niece Amanda, friends, colleagues, the state of Florida. Be safe. A lot of candles lit here in Cape Cod for you guys. So you guys got to muscle through this. Don't be a hero. And Scotty Webb, I'm with you, brother. So let's knock this one out of the park. Shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. Of course, it's Wagerwire. Head on over to Google Play, download that app. It's free. Myself, Travis, Zach, Amber, Jay, the rest of that team will take good care of you, I promise. Viva Tequila, Seltzer, CT Bets, team, family, second to none. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. Go try one. If they don't have it, ask why. And, of course, Terry Smith, Atlanta Steak and Seafood. Jump on over to Facebook. Please go follow Terry Smith. While you're there, follow Atlanta Steak and Seafood. If you order today, tomorrow, the rest of this week, at the checkout, use the promo code STRIP, STRIP. That is strip as in fillets, steak strip, not strip clubs. All you athletes out there, you degenerates, LOL. $25 off a box of steak with Terry Smith. Introduce yourself. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. So without further ado, the true star of this show, the one and only, Mr. Brady Tinker.
Oh, no, it's your show. It's the only reason I come on, because it's your show, and I'm always glad to see you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's funny, 7:30 tonight. Let me check. 7:08 to be exact. I didn't see Brett Saberhagen. I didn't see George Brett. As you would say, Country Buffet. I'm looking for Willie Wilson. But your Royals, 1-1, and just a short dog today with Seth Lugo on the mound against the evil empire of the New York Yankees there, Brady.
Well, there's a lot of similarities actually between this team and the 70s and 80s teams in terms of not a whole lot of stars, a lot of pitching, a lot of defense, timely hitting, keep the line moving. That was how they went to a Super Bowl or World Series in 80 and won one in 85. And they really redid the same thing with Hosmer and Moose and company in 2014 and 15. So I see a lot of similarities. Keep the line moving is still important. They don't hit, but then they don't strike out. So they put the ball in play. They steal a lot of bases. They move. They keep you moving. And it looks like nothing in the regular season until the wins begin to stack up. But in the playoffs, it's funny. Like the other night, it was 4-1 going to the ninth, right? And I'm writing things down. Got to get the first out of the inning, then we're going to win. Solo home run by Jazz, and I'm telling you, don't get me started on. I know what his name is. Don't get me started on that kid. I'm not a fan. But anyway, so he hits a pop up to right. That's a home run, and I thought, to be honest with you, that's right in there as second or third best because it's still a 2-run game and there's nobody on base. And the way you really impart pressure on relief pitchers is. I'm telling you, an opening walk, I think, would have been a bigger deal, honestly, than a solo blast, right? And then you go 1, 2, 3, and the inning's over because there's nobody behind him. He's fine, right? He's fine. I mean, so the people I was sitting with were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Listen, this is a 3-out deal, and it's a mindset deal, and that's a pop-up that everybody's trying to hit. That's right there in that the first 5 rows. He was swinging for a home run all along. He was out on the play at second base in the game before because he's so dopey. He slid early. He's so dopey when he ran home on a lucky play at the end. He ran into the umpire who was doing everything he could do to get out of the way. The kid had 80 feet to choose to run through home plate, and he runs over the umpire. I was like, is this guy stoned? That's really what I thought. Is this guy just baked? Because he just didn't look right to me. And I know the Yankees haven't been enthralled with him, but it's happened. The Yankees are the better team. Really, as a Royals fan, when you have this many kids, and they got so many kids 25 and under, right? When you have this many kids and you won 56 last year, you just want in. You want to get in. If they'd have gotten swept in 2, I'd have still been okay because they felt it, right? They felt the pitching get better, the defense get better, the managing get better, the game get tighter, right? They felt it. And that's kind of what I expected. But they get through that series and they only score 3 runs and they only give up 1. So, okay. And then I'm like, well, we're just going to get rolled by this Yankee offense. But luckily, Judge isn't really hitting. And really, honestly, from 6 on down, that lineup's just okay. Really. I mean, it's just terrifying at the top, but it's just okay from 6 on down. So all of a sudden, we got a pitcher who just went up against the Yankees 2 or 3 weeks ago who threw 7 strong with 9 strikeouts. And he toys with everybody with 8 different pitches. So I like their chances. And it's interesting to me that who they're starting. The Yankees are starting tonight, right? The young Hispanic kid who did so well in the middle of the season, right, was unhittable. Come on, help me with his name. Heel, right?
Actually, I'm seeing Schmidt today, and I think Heel
that's what I'm
tomorrow.
saying. So I really thought Heel would go in this game. He's got disappearing everything when he's on, but he struggled his last 3 or 4 starts, and they made a decision to go to Schmidt, and I get it. Schmidt's a veteran. He's been there before a little, and plus they're okay with going 3 innings with Schmidt if they have to, and then going to the bullpen. But I was surprised Heel wasn't pitching, and glad, because sometimes those guys that are nasty for this Royals team, they get to flailing a little bit. So I'm actually good with Schmidt starting, but I'm just the Royals fans are happy to be there, so they're getting the experience. And it's only been 9 years, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, it's been so long for the Royals." No, dudes, we wait 30 years. We wait 25 to 30 years. So 9 years? It's just yesterday. It was just yesterday. So I'm pleased with this team. They're certainly a little short, but they pitched so well all year. It's been incredible.
And they did something in the offseason. We're not saying Padres, we're not saying Yankees, we're not saying Mets, but they spent some money in the offseason and they brought some pitching over. And you do have a 5-2 potential generational player here with Bobby Witt Jr., obviously in the genes here. So you can build around him. It gives you hope. Unlike my Red Sox, that wouldn't spend a dime, and then we're now a small market team with the Tampa Bay Rays, just of the East now, and so how is the temperature in Royals? I remember way back. What was it? The I-84 and 95 when it was Royals and Cardinals in that World Series. That place used to be electric. Is you still that same buzz there, Brady?
Absolutely. It's still, to be honest with you, it's a baseball town. It really is. Just like St. Louis. It's a baseball town. It genuinely is. Now, they've won 3 Super Bowls, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly right in this moment, it's a football town. But at its core, Kansas City's a baseball town. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw the video, but 80,000 fans in Arrowhead the other day shouting for 5 minutes doing the Let's Go Royals chant as people were seeing the scores, right, as they went to the 9th inning. So it's a baseball town. So it takes them no time. Most people who grew up there are used to this. Since Ewing Kauffman, the original owner, died, this has been a poor mouth, small market team. Whoever has owned this team, and it's been 4 or 5 guys worth billions of dollars, but they didn't ever want to go mildly in debt to build their team. So it's always been slow. So the only reason the temperature hasn't just been consistently good since 15, to be honest with you, is they drafted really poorly for about 4 or 5 years in a row. They went after pitcher after pitcher after pitcher, and none of them hardly even made the team. And they used first picks and second picks, and they traded up, and they did everything they could do. And so obviously they haven't been developing talent the way you want them to. There's no way. Whatever. I think it's between 10 and 13 first and or compensatory pitchers got picked, and none of them made the team. Now Brady Tinker's on the team, Bubich is around, but for the most part, you would have thought with all the picks that we used in early rounds, picking early in drafts, remember picking first, second, third, or fourth, that we'd have a couple of Cy Young all-stars on this team from those drafts, and we don't. So that was the only thing that has had the Royals fans sort of cranky, is if you can't pick the right players, then find a different general manager or a different scouting system or what have you, right? And they were slow to make some changes offensively and how they approached hitting. Now they're back to it finally, but it took a long time. And they kept, a pitching coach who ran everything in the organization for probably 5 years too long, who was failing day of games, and he was failing in terms of developing. But anyway, like I said, 9 years, nobody's mad about 9 years. That's less than we expected. And yeah, Bobby Witt is something else, right? We've got our baseball Pat Mahomes, because he's already said, sign it as long as you want. I'm staying my entire career here. So we Midwesterners love to hug, so everyone hugs Witt and everyone hugs Pat and Andy, and we're fine.
Shout out to Daniel Berry, Mr. Sports Spotlight Highlights. Thank you so much for joining us. Top 6, Cleveland 0, and those pesky Tigers 2 there. Top of my head, if you were playing the AFC North every game this year, you'd be undefeated. Opened up in you opened up in Cleveland. And you wax them, and then a great effort, obviously, on Sunday night. Storm, the whole 9 yards. Dak made his paycheck there. Great win for them there. In between a win at the Giants, back home, struggling at home. Lions, and now any team that plays the Lion loses the next week. In come the Ravens and just steamrolled you. But I guess you're comfortable. You're okay where you're sitting. I know I didn't have Washington Commanders the top of the heap on the NFC East bingo card to start the year. Give me the temperature of the Cowboys right now.
I think it's okay. I mean, I think Cowboys fans are starting to realize that what I said in the offseason when Jerry said I'm all in, my interpretation wasn't what everybody thought it was. Jerry was all in, meaning I'm already spending all the money I'm going to spend. So then it had to be about him, and that's why it took forever to sign CD and Dak. And I really was surprised they signed Dak. You know that. So I think there was a change of heart there with signing Dak. I think, honestly, he wasn't going to sign Dak, but everybody looked at him and said, we didn't even draft a quarterback. So, and we know it's not the kid from San Francisco. So he went ahead and signed Dak. I don't think he wanted to, not because he doesn't like him and not because he can't put up regular season stats, and he's a good fantasy football quarterback. He hasn't been a good playoff quarterback. And the other part of the temperature thing is, listen, the injury list right now for the defense, Micah Parsons, Tank Lawrence, this kid Marshawn Keeland is out. Sam Williams is still out. They're forcing Duron Bland, it looks like, maybe onto the field this week, which is shocking to me only in that on Thursday last week, Duron Bland had less than 0 chance of playing. He ain't playing. And now, what are we? 4 days later? Looks like he's probably good to go. Really? Because what I'm hearing inside is he's going to try. He's going to push it. Why? Why would you risk that? He had, what do you have, 6 pick sixes last year. He's one of their best players. I get it. You're playing a good team. That's why. You're playing a good team at home, and maybe you need a little lift because the rest of your defense isn't there. But if you can't rush the passer, then Detroit is going to pick this team apart because they have too much time, not because the secondary isn't good. It's still pretty good. But I think they're also still adjusting to Mike Zimmer as the defensive coordinator, right? Their coordinator the last 3 years had them in the top 3 in turnovers, sacks, quarterback pressures, points against everything. I mean, this was a defense that was together, and 5 or 6 or 7 of them went every year to the Pro Bowl. Well, you want team players? Send them to the Pro Bowl. Keep telling them they're going to play more and make more money. So all of a sudden now their defensive coordinator's gone, and he got a head coaching job in Washington. There's nothing anybody could have done. But if I'm Zimmer, and I don't know for a fact that he didn't do this, but if I'm Zimmer and I've watched that defense for the last 3 years be really, really good, right, schematically and the way they played, wouldn't you come in here with your hat in your hand a little bit and say, I'm not going to change everything. I've been watching. We got most of the same players here, especially in the secondary. We're going to do things the same, but he doesn't. He's a former Cowboy assistant coach under Parcells. He's a former head coach that's had good success, and he's old, and he's going to do shit the way he wants to do it. And so I think that worked on this team on the defensive side. What worked on them on the offensive side was they basically went through most of training camp without Dak and CD. That's a big deal. You're doing drills, but the 2 primary, skill position players on your team, for the most part, weren't even involved. So you're behind when you come out. I think 3-2 is probably a miracle. And it was a great win at Pittsburgh because, even if Pittsburgh plays poorly at home with that team in that weather, they're going to show up and make it really hard on you. So, that's a good win. It doesn't get any easier, and I don't know how they win this week against Detroit. Detroit is completely healthy. That quarterback's playing at the top of his game. Jamison Williams' game is finally up, so they have weapons at every level offensively, and their defense is pretty good too. And then the Cowboys get a bye, and that's probably when I'd bring Bland back, to be honest with you, in Week 8 at San Francisco, and let him help with those receivers. But I'm not sending bouquets, and I look at this. I look at this schedule and I see, here we go, Detroit, San Francisco, Atlanta, Philly, Houston. Oops. I mean, that's going to be hard. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. They could lose all of them. They will be underdogs in probably, I don't know, all of those games, or it'll be a push maybe with Houston at home. So that's going to be tough, and I don't like their chances with everything we've talked about. Too many injuries on this side, an offensive line that's just okay, a real inability overall to run the football. And I see it flat, and I saw Dak, and I could read CD's lips last week. Do you know what he said to him when they came to the sidelines? He said, that was a subpar throw to Dak. And Dak goes, and just turns around and walks away. So CD's giving him a lot of this, like he did, the first play of the playoff game last year. What the hell? How can you screw that up? I think, without really knowing, I'm going to guess that CD's overall issue with his attitude being so much worse is most of these players that I get to meet in the locker room who have any issues personality-wise hang on to their friends from the day, their boys, their posse, their ride or die, who do nothing but carry their baggage and fondle them. And so the minute CD isn't looking great, his buddies are like, dude, you're the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. How can you only catch 5 balls? How's he throwing such bad passes to you? What are you doing? We thought you were the S, but you're not, you haven't been great yet. You haven't done anything. And I think it's affecting him. So immaturity steps up, and he's showing up his quarterback. And the truth is, his quarterback's offensive line isn't very good, and they really can't run the ball. So pretty much everyone's leaning 88's way. It ain't as easy as it's going to be, and now they've lost a wide receiver. So, the good news is Jalen Tolbert and Kavonte Turpin, and that's not going to take you that far.
And I put the horse before the cart. Your 2 losses at home, the Saints came in and put the 40-plus burger on you, and then the Ravens right after that. And kind of so actually, Lions coming off a bye, I still think they're the team to beat in the NFC. We're going to get to your other team because I think, and I know we're only in week 5/6 now. I would not be shocked to see a Chiefs Lions, but I'm going to bring up a certain scenario of last year, how your Chiefs, tough game against Cincinnati, and then go as underdogs in Buffalo and then to Baltimore, where I think we could get a repeat performance where it might be the Baltimore team going on that little road trip and being a short favorite to come back to Kansas City. Surprised that the Lions short favorites, 3-point favorites at Dallas? You don't see that often, Brady. Dallas dogs at home.
No, just because everything we talked about. This Dallas Cowboys defense is not going to be able to rush the passer. They're going to have to dial it up. They're going to have to disguise it and dial it up and bring it from the secondary to get home to where they don't have him standing on his spot. And if Jared Goff and this offense, which is now proven, right? Whether we love Jared Goff or not, whether we loved what he did in LA and whether we think he can't move, whatever you think about Jared Goff, on this team, in this offense, with this group of skill position players and a head coach loving on him every minute, he's playing at a really high level, the highest level that he can play at, and even in tough games. So no, I'm not surprised. I'll bet it goes up. I'll bet it's more than 3 at kickoff. There just are too many people missing on the defensive side of the football for the Cowboys, and right back to they won't be able to run the ball in this game. So that means Dak's going to throw a lot. I mean, a lot. So if you're talking about fantasy football, Dak's going to get opportunities. Now, see how many 3-and-outs happen. But Dak's going to get lots of opportunities to throw the ball, and CD's going to get lots of opportunities to catch him. And Jalen Tolbert's probably a good sleeper pick in some of your daily fantasy stuff, and maybe even Kavonte Turpin. Ferguson is really doing what we hoped, and that is he's a top 3 or 4 tight end. He is. He knows the offense very well. He is fearless. He's a combo of 3 of the better players that, if you think about it, because he gets loose in the secondary and he's got better hips than you think, right? And he sort of strides over people. He's a little Kelsey, at 5 years ago. So, and he has this unbelievable thing going with Dak, which is great. So really Ferguson manned up tight end 1 before the end of the year for fantasy players.
Last question on the Cowboys. Any concern of Aiden Hutchinson this week?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. He's too quick. So but whatever. I mean, you're going to pass all day anyway. So Zeke's going to play a lot because he's really good at chipping and he's really good at picking up blitzes. So are there concerns? Yeah. Yeah. I'm concerned with sacks and turnovers and interceptions and all of it, right? Dak's going to have to be pretty close to perfect, I think, for the Cowboys to win this game.
Well, you got the best kicker in the game. His range is when he walks on the field, Mr. Aubrey himself. I got him every which way but loose. Almost lined up a couple of weeks ago for a 71-yarder. That would have been historic.
Yeah, well, depending on your fantasy scoring, right? That guy's bonus points just every time he touches the ball, too, right? So if you're given 3 bonus or whatever, you're given 5 for an over 50. What are you giving 6 for an over 60 now? You got to redo your rules. So anyway, but yeah, he's something. I'm not sure that he's as big a deal, except maybe at the end of the game to win the game in this one, because there's going to be a lot of touchdowns scored in this game.
Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Brady, let's go back to open and week here. You were a half. Isaiah Likely's shoe was a quarter inch too big, or as Pat said, you should have worn the white cleats, and they were going for 2 there. And then it's 4th and 16 of a PI. So you could have actually started the year 0-2. You lose Pacheco, you lose Hollywood Brown, you lose Rashee Rice. You bring in the rebirth, the reborn of Kareem Hunt. Andy and Pat, I saw it for 2 decades with Bill and Tom. This is just the sped up version here. Calm, cool, collected. There's nothing he can't do. You look like you got the rhythm back with Kels. Juju is now reborn as well. 5-0 Kansas City Chiefs. Talk about them.
Well, I remember when they signed Juju in the offseason, and everyone in our business, for the most part, was like, why? What are they doing? And I thought, dude, did you not watch last year? Half the team can't even catch the ball. The other half stops running their routes. I mean, it's incredible what they were able to do and score enough points to win last year. Incredible. So they went back to Juju, not because he was high octane anymore, because he's really not. But he learned the offense. He knew the offense. 2 years earlier, right, he'd had 850 yards and 8 touchdowns in a sub, you're just standing over here, run your routes guy. And at that point, they didn't need more than that, right? I mean, that's why right now they're talking to Amari Cooper and D-Hop as guys to potentially add, because you know what? They'll be in the right place. I mean, if you've watched this Chiefs team really closely in the last 3 years, since Tyreek left, they've had more wide receivers stop their routes, tip balls. It's just been it's been hilarious. So the Juju signing for me, when they did it, I was like, thumbs up. If it's 2 good catches a game in close games, because when you look at our schedule, it's a juggernaut. If it's 2 big catches a game, it's worth whatever you're paying him, million and a half, whatever. It's worth it. And I don't really think they dialed Juju up last week, to be honest with you. The first big catch that went 40 or 50 yards, basically kind of out of the backfield, is a busted coverage. So, you know, I do see why you're going to bid on him in with free agent bucks, but I don't think, to be honest with you, they dialed a whole bunch of Juju up. I think a couple of really big plays in that game happened just because of the game itself, right? And somebody dropped a coverage or what have you. So, but I'm thrilled he's here. I was thrilled that they signed him when they did. I know this, you know, that Rashee Rice did not really get going last year until roughly week 8. It's a complicated offense. There's 5,000 plays in this offense, and then whatever nuance the quarterback who will throw it with either hand and his foot also wants you to understand about him. So for a kid, it's almost too much. So still at this point, you watch Worthy the other day. He basically is running. He's playing outside receiver only. He's running fly routes. They're trying to work on back shoulder fades, but he doesn't really know how yet. Right? They haven't got that down. So they're running fly routes, wide receiver screens, end arounds, and whatever. They're running the McCole Hardman playbook, which is kind of embarrassing because that's all McCole still knows now after having been a Chief off and on for the last 5 years, is the same 4 plays. But that's what Worthy's getting. So Worthy's not coming to a prominent role in this offense until he's ready. And if it's anything like Rashee, then it's week 8, 9, 10 before they start to expand his role. So, you know, if you had him last week, you're lucky. That little bitty end around right by the goal line is the only thing that saved you from having a 3-point week. So, and Justin Watson runs in the right place and stands in the right place, so he stays on the team. Supposedly Sky Moore is being dangled as part of this trade. Chiefs fans are like, okay, that's fine with us. All anybody can think about is all the wide receivers that were passed for the Chiefs to move up somewhere right late second round to get Sky Moore. It's been a total swing and miss, but it happens to every team. So the thing about this team that we don't ever want to talk about, that nobody wants to talk about, because you and I have done so much fantasy stuff and betting, is this is a really good defense. This is a really good defense that started with Derrick Henry and he got 42. So the star running backs that we've played in 5 games have basically gone 45, 35, 39, 40, 22. And I'm not going to tell you who they all are, but the best 5 running backs that we faced, all 5 running backs that we faced, are under 50 yards. You essentially cannot run right now against the Chiefs, and they've got a top 5 cornerback back there in 22 and a bunch of other kids, who have really come along. So the Chiefs defense is carrying this team, and, Pat's ability to make a play when he needs to, even when it looks terrible.
Rumor had it you were the only team to meet the Raiders' requirement of a second rounder for Davante Adams, 33-year-olds here. Obviously Raiders real reluctant to trade him within the division, whether he goes to the Jets or I'd send him to the North Pole. I don't give a rat's ass there. You talked about D-Hop, and we talked backstage. The way I understand it, the salary hit is only $600,000 for Amari Cooper. That makes the most sense in the world to me, Brady.
It does. I agree with that. They'd have to do something to put D-Hop on. And to be honest with you, we talked about this. Amari, and I got to know him when he was here in Dallas. Amari is a strange cat, but not in a bad way. He's just weird. But he also is very, he works very hard. And what he's most proud of aren't wins and losses, oddly enough. What he's most proud of is embarrassing cornerbacks and safeties. And so what Amari would bring back the Chiefs haven't had in 3 years is some big plays. And then Worthy does as well, right? As they expand Worthy, he does as well. And now they're back to being somewhat of a threat past a 15-yard threshold. So I'm definitely down with Amari, and his contract would be up at the end of this year. Unless he's coming back for 3 years at $5 million a year, they probably won't re-sign him, but they might. Because the truth is, if you're in keeper leagues, you might be able to go trade for Rashee Rice right now, because the truth is when he gets back and he's in training camp and what have you, he's not going to be ready, as I understand, at the beginning of the year. So you're talking about maybe week 4 for Rashee Rice next year. Totally guessing, right? Conjecture. But then the NFL is going to come in and they're going to hit him with something relatively big. I mean, there's no way around. You were the procuring cause of an accident with 4 or 5 cars that 10 people were involved in. People could have been dead, and you and your posse chose to grab the guns and whatever else that they may have had and leave. I mean, it's almost as bad as it gets, because there could have easily been people bleeding to death that he could have helped, and he didn't. So I think that the NFL is going to come down on that as hard as anything. And it was, 7 o'clock at night too. They weren't, it was just, they just were doing what they wanted to do. They were driving 150 miles an hour up I-75, which in this town, in the Dallas area, is crowded all the time. Basically, it's like LA. It's a 24/7 roadblock. So you can't drive fast. You can't drive in and out of people there. You're going to hurt somebody. Either you're going to make a mistake, or someone's going to make a mistake because they don't anticipate you coming at 120 miles an hour, which is what happened. So he's going to pay a heavy price. So if he's back in week 4, but then he gets hit with 6 to 8 weeks, he's almost useless next year too. So the Chiefs will know that, and we'll be thinking about that as to, and it probably comes into play. D-Hop's got 2 years left on that contract, this year and next. Is it worth it? Because he came and spent a lot of time in Kansas City. Are they in love with him? If they are, can they move some money and keep him for the next 2 years? And then they don't really have to worry about wide receiver. And maybe, I don't know what kind of guy he is, maybe he helps Worthy a little bit with his development.
Well, it's going to be exciting, as I said a few minutes ago. It's almost like, and in the NFL, any given Sunday, not for long. I remember last year when you and I were doing shows sporadically here, you were talking about the Chiefs not even making the playoffs, and they were playing so piss poor.
Week 10, I was certain they weren't making the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, so now you are fortunate you're on the other side here, and you're looking to build here. I could see that opposite scenario where here come the Ravens as the Chiefs host as a 2.5-point favorite when it goes to the Super Bowl.
Interesting too, isn't it? I mean, if you're looking at Kelsey and you watch the Chiefs, and most people hate Kelsey unless they like the Chiefs, but Kelsey hasn't looked right. He didn't look right most of last year. He was better in the last couple of games. He was pretty good in the playoffs, and he was very good in the Super Bowl, but he looked like he was aging and dating and famous and really, really busy, which we know he's all of those things, right? And even this year at the beginning of the year, where is he, right? Well, he's a little flat-footed, right? They're double teaming him. They're bracketing him over under a lot. But then all of a sudden, a couple of guys on TV came out and said, the truth is, we've been watching a lot of video. Mahomes' feet are a little shaky right now. His balance isn't as good. He's coming off of Kelsey sooner. And what's going on there, and they're just going to have to work through it, is right. They have basically new right tackle and new left tackle. Now, the right tackle was there for a part of last year, but he's shaky. He's the one that comes out of his stance on every play too soon. I mean, what they just get tired of throwing the flag. He's illegal motion every time, but he gets away with it a lot. And I think they got him from Tampa, so they had seen that in Tampa when they got whipped in the Super Bowl. I think that's where he came from. But anyway, when your left tackle is shaky, which they got 2 of them, and they're both shaky now. So Andy's really, they got a rookie, and they're hoping that he gets better. But I think Pat is not quite legs underneath him. I thought he was the other night. I thought he was very good against the Saints team. I thought that was a dangerous game. With a bye week coming, NFC game, I thought the Chiefs were really in some danger in that game, and that was as clean and good a game as they played. And there was juju, but the defense is really good.
Well, you got a baseball game to catch. The scroll has been going the whole time at Cowboy Life, at DFW Sports Beat, off with the Helmets Cowboy Show. Brady, we can't thank you enough, but before you leave, tell them if you're in that Texas, Dallas area, and you might have a house to sell or something.
Yeah, well, I don't get to do as much TV and radio as I used to, and podcasts. Just the world changed for COVID for many of us. And I got my license, and I'm now almost 2 years into selling houses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Work for a group called EXP Realty. They are now, I think, the 3rd biggest realty group in the country. And I'm really lucky with my associate broker who I report to and who has trained me in fast order, Cliff Freeman and the Cliff Freeman Group. We sold 256 houses last year. 556 houses last year. And we're going to do better than that this year. And neither one of these years have been all that easy. So I'm getting very comfortable. I'll help you find a house if you're coming to Dallas and you need one. But I seem to be especially good at selling houses. I think I talk a lot and I just put them into a trance and then they hand over their money, right? What did he say? People will come, Ray. They'll hand over their money. They won't know why, but they'll just hand over their money gladly. I've had a little bit of that. So it's been fun and I love doing it and I'm getting good at it. And I'd love to help anybody that's coming to town that needs a place here in Dallas. And I'll tell you lots of stories about any team you want to know about.
Well, we're going to catch you in the November month before Thanksgiving. And then, of course, we'll circle back before Christmas. Keep up to date with the Cowboys, the Chiefs. We'll be talking Royals, how far they made it, obviously, in the playoffs. Hopefully, for your sake, the World Series. And, of course, we'll start talking a little Mavericks and Stars. How's that sound, brother?
Yeah, that's great. Two very good teams. So I've got some more studying to do on both of those teams, but two very good teams. That both should be in a playoff picture, and they're both lots of fun to watch. So I'll get ready for you there, and I'll see if I can find any Jordan scoop. I know, in listening to everyone talking about Jordan Spieth lately, that he's really going through something, and that he's really enjoying being a husband and a father a ton. And I think, his friends have helped him, his family's helped him with stop pressing so hard on the golf course, right? I mean, when Jordan first came out, it wasn't because it was the best swing or anything else. It was because he was creative and he just hit whatever shot he saw and he didn't really think about it. He just did it. But after that, 2015 or 17 season where he had one of the top 10 years in the history of golf, he just, I even had a conversation with him about it one day. I was just like, can you leave room? He said to me and everyone else in this room, I've never had a year in my life where I didn't get better. And this was maybe 2019 or 20. And he's like, I didn't get better last year. And I kind of went like this. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, can you make room for the fact that 2017 was one of the 5 best single seasons in PGA Tour? And maybe that isn't the bar. And maybe now the only way to get better is to learn how to handle wife, family, kids, and everybody else, right? I mean, if you ask anybody, and this is old, but if you ask anybody why Jack Nicklaus was the greatest golfer of all time, they're going to tell you in the top 3 reasons is Barbara, that she just handled their life. And she handled everything, including putting his clothes out for him because he was colorblind. So, all of that stuff is really, really important if you are a family man. So anyway, I'm looking for Jordan to have kind of a next phase. I know you didn't really ask, but since you always bring it up, I thought I'd bring it up. What a fan I am, what a wonderful man he is.
I can't wait to talk golf with you. So listen, everyone, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., Paul Stone from the Dallas area will be back for some NCAA football. And at 3 o'clock, Lou Fendacaro will be back in the Octagon talking some UFC. And at 5 o'clock, Ron Marmolewski will be talking college and NFL. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Mr. Brady Tinker, DFW Sports Beat. We wish everyone a blessed day. Florida, stay strong, please. Man upstairs. Jesus, take it easy on them, will you? We will see you soon.